This is just a very short session on MyCap. And so again, like my intro to REDCap session earlier today, this is really just going to be a little taster for MyCap. And so I encourage you, any of you, to create a test project for MyCap and just try it out. If you've got a REDCap account already, go in, create a project, and hopefully everyone can hear me well. Create a project and just go through. MyCap is going to walk you through the setup process, and we'll talk about that a little bit here today also. So MyCap is a participant-facing mobile application used for data collection and the administration of active tasks. And so this allows you to, instead of working through the browser or working through doing internal data entry or working through surveys and collecting data through survey distribution, this is actually a mobile application called MyCap that is available for download on iOS devices or on Android devices. And a participant downloads the app onto their device, and then you're able to, from within your REDCap project, you're able to assign them tasks. So these are the forms that you've built in REDCap, but instead of using them either for internal data entry or distributing them as surveys, you're actually assigning them as tasks within the MyCap application. And so people are going to be able to, first of all, they're going to be able to join a project using a QR code or using a hyperlink that you're going to distribute to them. They're going to then be able to join the project in their MyCap application, and they're going to have various tasks assigned to them that they'll be able to fill out all within that MyCap application rather than opening up a survey form. All the data is automatically sent back to the REDCap server as soon as there's an internet connection. It's a no-code solution for research teams conducting longitudinally designed projects or projects with frequent participant contact. And so I want to say a brief qualification there about longitudinally designed projects. So if you're familiar with REDCap, you're probably familiar with one of the main project settings for a long time now has been using longitudinal data collection with defined events. And so that's definitely an option for longitudinal projects. MyCap is another option for that. They're not compatible with each other. And so you can use one or the other. MyCap is able to be used for longitudinal projects, but not with the defined events functionality that's in REDCap. So that's just a distinction I wanted to draw there. And so MyCap facilitates participant engagement and retention by giving quick access to project staff and two-way communications within the app. So one of the advantages of MyCap is that along with assigning these tasks, you're able to send messages back and forth. The participant can send you messages, you can send the participant messages, individual messages, and that all stays within the app. And you're able to manage that on a record by record, participant by participant basis. So again, that puts together that communication along with the tasks in one place for the participant rather than having, as with surveys, where they're filling out the survey, putting the data in there, but then their communication process is usually going to be outside of REDCap and separately with you. So MyCap, when you go into when you first enable MyCap, that'll be in the main project settings section at the top of the project setup page in your REDCap project. And there's an informational dialog box there that you can open. It has links to a lot of resources. So again, MyCap originally was an external module that was developed by someone at another institution and could then be added to a REDCap instance to extend base REDCap's functionality. But it's recently been integrated into base REDCap itself so that everybody has access to it immediately. Any REDCap project has access to it. And so they've increased the documentation quite a bit. If I'm sure none of you used the MyCap external module, but it was much more was not as easy entry. They've put a lot of documentation in now. There's a whole MyCap website that's set up. There's a instruction manual. There's various videos. So it's not only for more advanced users. It's something you can definitely get into pretty easily and test out. So using it in a project consists of two main parts. You can think of it in two different sections. So first you want to design it. And this is you're designing what is the participant going to see? What are they going to be assigned? What will the app look like for them? And so you can enable different instruments you've created as MyCap tasks. And I don't think this will come up later, so I'll mention it here. It is possible to have an instrument that you've developed enabled as a survey as well as a MyCap task. So just the same way that any form can be internal data entry, but also can be completed as a survey. So you can also have it where it can be completed as a MyCap task. So that makes it useful for people that maybe can't access the MyCap application. They don't have a smartphone. They can't download it for one reason or another. You're able to still to send them that form as a survey and do it through your typical survey workflow. So you can enable instruments as MyCap tasks. You can import active tasks and design the look and feel of the MyCap app. And that'll be in the online designer. There'll be a section on MyCap design and enabling each of the MyCap instruments. So each instrument, just like you have survey settings, it'll have a set of MyCap settings, task settings. And then you'll manage participants. So there'll be a separate manage MyCap participants under the set of project setup and design. On the left side of the project page, you'll see a manage MyCap participants button. And that's each of these are governed by a separate user right. So design, you're able to enable and design MyCap tasks if you have project design and setup rights, whereas you're able to manage participants if you have a manage MyCap participants user right. And so that's useful to keep in mind because you may want to have somebody working with the MyCap participants, but not necessarily having project design and setup rights in the project. So smart variables and action tags. There are several smart variables and action tags that are associated specifically with MyCap. And so you can see some of those documentation for them in the when you click on the button for smart variables or action tags in your project. Some of them are immediately added to instruments that are enabled as MyCap tasks. There are some limitations with MyCap. So several standard REDCap features are not supported with MyCap. And in fact, we're still finding some of those here and there. So this is not an exhaustive list. So piping, for example, smart variables. Now, to clarify what this means, and you can see that there's several others here too, it doesn't mean that you can't have some of these in the form. It means that some of them will not work with the task when you're viewing it inside the MyCap app, but it might still be relevant if somebody's taking the form as a survey or doing it as an internal data entry instrument. And so it is possible that you still might have a form where you're using one or more of these and it's just not relevant as a MyCap task. But nevertheless, you'll want to test very carefully what the user's experience is. So you'll definitely want to download the MyCap app yourself, add yourself to the project, and go through that testing process, both in terms of design and in terms of the workflow of taking the different tasks, making sure that the questions all appear as expected, because there are going to be some of these differences. So you'll want to make sure with each question that everything is displaying correctly. And again, it mentions here that branching logic is partially supported. So simple single statement branching logic like field equals 1 or age greater than 18, something like that. Those should work, but anything more complex is not going to work. And then I'm just going to briefly just show you what some of this looks like so you can actually have a picture of it. And then I would encourage and take any questions. I believe we have till 2:15. Is that right? And so any questions that you might have? This, I already have it open in the browser. Switch over here. And so this is where under the main project settings, you'll be able to enable the MyCap app. And again, as I mentioned here, there's a lot of documentation. There's a lot of good videos to lead you through the setup of that. And first of all, you'll be able to go to Designer. And as you can see, these are the two tasks that I've enabled as MyCap tasks. And you too will be able to set these various MyCap settings for each of the instruments that you've enabled as tasks. And so you'll see that you can alter the format. Should it look like a questionnaire or more like a form? And so the questionnaire is sort of ideal for, and it's the default for MyCap tasks. And that'll just be where you open up the MyCap app and you're able to see one question at a time. You click through page by page. There's various settings. And then there's the task schedule. And we recommend that when you're first testing it, you test it out using this infinite so that you're able to not worry initially about the scheduling. You're not having to wait for something. First, test out the form itself, the task itself using this infinitely repeating option. You can just take it as many times as you like and make sure it's how you like, and then you can go to working out the exact schedule in terms of how often it repeats, what days, and just something I will mention here, especially with a view to the fact that this is being recorded, is that this fixed days, it might not be clear what that means. And so I'll just mention here that that actually means the dates, the days of the month. So for example, if you said days 1 and 7, that would mean the 1st of the month, the 7th of the month. It's not sort of one day after it's scheduled or something like that. And there are options here. This is the app design section. And so again, you'll be able to add some about information. You can add contacts on the project. You can add links. And so these are all going to be visible within the MyCap app. So there will be a button that participants are able to see this. You're able to set particular themes. There's some customizability there. However, do note that this is not available on Android devices yet. But that's a limitation. And then finally, we have the MyCap participant management. So again, that'll be here. And just to correct my earlier statement, it's not under project home and design, it's under data collection. And you'll go here. And let me speak briefly about the way that you typically would distribute the invitations to people. So you're doing it either using a hyperlink or a QR code or both. And typically you're going to do that using an alert or using the survey completion text. So you can have a survey, and after someone finishes a survey in REDCap, you know that it'll show a little page saying, all right, you've completed the survey, like an enrollment or pre-screening survey. And you can include there the QR code or the hyperlink to be able to join the MyCap project. Or you can send an alert anytime after the record's been created. So you can trigger it the first time that you create the record for someone, that it will then send them an alert containing the hyperlink or the QR code or both. Those are the primary ways that you're going to want to send that. And then up here, I will just mention that you want to publish your MyCap versions as you go along. So we go back to Designer, you'll see that there's this button up here. This button you can also find in the app design. And you're going to want to stay up to date. As you make any changes to MyCap and the MyCap configuration, you'll want to update that by publishing clicking to publish the new version. And what that's going to do is it means whenever one of the participants re-enters the app, they're going to see the updated version of it. So they are going to be able to see new changes once they leave the app and then re-enter it again. But only if you've published the new version. And so you'll want to do that as soon as you make new changes so that there's no risk of somebody submitting responses to a task that's now been changed. Maybe you've changed the task schedule, this sort of thing. In general, of course, you'll want to try to minimize making changes to scheduling or to which tasks are assigned to somebody. You'll want to try and test that out and work that out before you start sending it. But if you do have to make changes, you want to make sure that the communication is as seamless as you can get it with the participants and with publishing that new version. And there is, come back here to the participant management. So again, here is, this is where you would have the list of the participants, and you would see if there were participants here. You have this option to, in this case, I just have a number of test records, but you're able to designate a custom participant label. So you could have their names there, you could have some other ID. It would come up with the install date, and this is where you would handle messaging. So you'd be able to see any messages you receive here, respond to them here, and then app sync issues. And this is going to be typically something that comes up only when there's a gap with publishing a new version, where a participant is submitting something or attempting to submit some data, or some data is trying to be uploaded to the database that's no longer reflective of the current version. And so that should throw an app sync issue here that should display. Now, if there is an app sync issue, one limitation of MyCap is that it's not going to, there's no way to sort of automate the fixing of that. So if there is an app sync issue, it's going to display here, it's going to tell you about it, and then you're going to need to manually take that information and go and fix it, or have the participant resubmit something with a new version. But MyCap won't do that for you. And we have 1 minute left, and so I will just ask if anyone, oops, maybe I shouldn't have stopped the screen share already, but in any case, if anyone has any questions here in person or online. All right, so I have a question on Zoom. Is there a way to pull the messages in a report to document in a physical research chart? So I think that the question, let me share my screen again. I think the question is about the messages here. Is there a way to export the messages to be able to keep them together somewhere? And the answer to that is no, I don't believe that there is. I would not be surprised if that's something that happens in the future, just as we have other ability to export survey invitations and that sort of thing. So I would definitely, to Brandy, who's asking the question, I would definitely recommend, as I would recommend with many an idea that you all have as you're using REDCap, to take the time to click the Suggest a New Feature button and submit the new feature suggestion. That's always going to go to the REDCap Consortium at Vanderbilt, and it's they're definitely happy to receive suggestions and get new ideas for improving REDCap. They like to hear it from you all who are really using it. Yes, you're very welcome.